Good morning, everybody. Keith Engel at TGI Sports Talk. Sorry, my phone's ringing. Shouldn't be doing that at this point in time. Hope everybody's doing well. It's a beautiful day here in East Greenbush. We're still the only live streaming sportscast from East Greenbush, New York, I hope. Or I shouldn't be saying that, but I'm gonna hang my hat on that as long as I can. I want to thank, before I get started, my guest from last week, Hank Gola, still a contributing writer to the New York Daily News, covering golf and professional football. We will have coming up next week Todd Stottlemyre, and after that's Christmas, so we probably won't have a show Christmas week, but I do have an interview coming up with Lloyd Walton, actually Dr. Lloyd Walton, former Marquette University standout, and he works for the NBA Players Association now, doing some very important work, so we'll have him coming up soon too. But this morning, my guest is Roy White. Roy was a longtime Yankee, 15 years, probably one of the most underappreciated players that I grew up watching. I don't want to make Roy feel old that a guy as old as me grew up watching and play, but certainly one of the most underrated Yankees and players of that era, I think. Two-time All-Star, played on 2 World Championship teams, played in 3 World Series, started during the bad times of the Yankees when they kind of were on a downswing, and was there through the resurgence. So we'll have lots to talk with Roy about, and we'll bring him in right now. Good morning, Roy.
Hey, good morning.
Again, I appreciate you coming on today, and I thank your guy, Murray Bauer, for kind of getting us together so that we can make this happen. And I hope you're doing well down there in I think you're in New Jersey, you said, right, now these days?
Yeah, in New Jersey. Been here for ever since I've been a Yankee. I've been a New Jerseyan.
Same place, really?
Well, not the same house, but the same state. Let's put it that way.
Gotcha. Now, a lot of Yankees lived in Jersey in those days.
Yeah, they did. Mostly in Ridgewood. Ridgewood was a big spot for the Yankees of the 50s and 60s. And later on, when I came to the Yankees, most of the guys lived down in Norwood area. Who else was down there? We had like 3 or 4 guys that lived in Norwood, New Jersey. Stick Michaels, Munson, Catfish Hunter.
Interesting. Well, I want to start with you at the beginning because before you were a Yankee, you were a star in high school in Compton, California, and you went to school. Now, I'm not sure if you played on the same exact teams, but with some, and I'm pretty sure you played second base and Reggie Smith was the shortstop, if I read that right. But Bobby Tolan, Don Wilson, you played with some very big names in baseball of the 70s.
Yeah, Compton was really a hotbed for future major leaguers. The high school team, yeah, Reggie Smith was with us. He was a freshman, though. I was in my senior year when Reggie came up, but Reggie and I played in the same Little League, Compton Western Little League, which also had Donald Wilson, who pitched for the Houston Astros, Lenny Randall, who played for the Mets and the Texas Rangers and the Yankees.
Yep.
And we had one more guy, Davey Nelson. Dave Nelson was the second baseman, played for the Cleveland Indians, Texas Rangers, probably had a 10-year major league career. So, 5 of us making it to the major leagues from the same Little League, that's pretty astounding.
My gosh, at that point in time in your life, I mean, every little kid, playing ball, including me, has aspirations. I'm going to be in the big league. But for the 5 of you to make it, it is pretty astounding for sure.
Then Reggie and I got to square off in the World Series, actually, when he got to the Dodgers. Originally he came up, but as a Red Sox, and then went to the National League and played with the Dodgers. So both him and I shared our World Series experience for 2 years.
He was a big part.
Yeah.
Are you hearing any reverb from me, by the way?
Not at all. Everything's clear.
Good. Must be just my headset set. That's good. So yeah, Reggie was a big part of those Dodgers teams, obviously, and you guys must have had an interesting time in 77, 78, kind of saying, look at where we ended up.
Yeah, since I've lived in New Jersey all these years, and Reggie stayed in California, we never really had much contact. I never really had a chance to have a real good conversation with him until 2 years ago, we both had an appearance in Connecticut to do a baseball clinic, and so we got together and got to rehash all the old times after all these years, and we talked about a lot of stuff. So that was great that we finally had a chance to check up on each other.
So as you kind of went through your high school years, you had some opportunities to go to school. You had some offers to play baseball and I think football. Did you ever give serious consideration of going to school rather than signing with the Yankees? Because I know maybe your bonus was a lot of money, or seemed like a lot of money at that time. I mean, today it doesn't seem like a lot, but.
Yeah, I was going to go to UCLA. I had a scholarship offer to go to UCLA to play baseball. I also had some football offers with Long Beach State, which was kind of a football hotbed out in Southern California. But I knew that I would get crushed. At my 160 pounds running back, I wouldn't have lasted very long in football. And I kind of wasn't getting any offers. I knew there was a lot of scouts interested in me because there was no draft at that time, Keith, in the early 60s. The draft hadn't come in yet. And I knew there were 4 or 5 teams that were interested, but nobody was kind of knocking on the door. And my friends were signing contracts. Ronnie Woods signed with the Pittsburgh Pirates organization. Ronnie Woods was with our crosstown rival Compton High School team. I went to Centennial, and I think he got. Yeah, he did. We did. In fact, Lenny Randall and Ronnie Woods, we were all on the same team, I think, in 1973 or somewhere around there. We all were on the same team. So that was kind of unique. But anyway, so I didn't even know the Yankees were interested in me. And the first scout that actually knocked on the door and offered me a contract was a scout from the Yankees. So it was kind of shocking because I never saw the guy before, never saw him in a ball game. He had never approached me. And so I didn't know what to do. I wasn't a Yankee fan. I rooted against the Yankees in all those World Series. And I wasn't a Dodger fan either. I was a Cleveland Indian, Cincinnati Reds fan. So because they could all hit. Those teams had good hitting teams. And so I looked at those guys. But anyway, I talked to I was with a single mom, so I didn't have a dad to talk to about the contract. So I talked to my coaches, my American Legion coach, my Connie Mack coach, and they kind of said, well, Roy, you always wanted to be a big league ball player. Here's your opportunity. You should go for it. Go ahead and go for it. So then I started thinking about how great the Yankees have been and their great history. Then it was kind of exciting. Well, I'm going to play with the Yankees. So I agreed to sign that contract and ended up a New York Yankee. Never thought that would happen.
We are getting some reverb. Murray just made a comment in the room, so I'm trying to adjust that as we're going along here.
Yeah, it's very slight, very slight.
But it's funny, you start with the Yankees partly because of their history, and you get there, and unfortunately, the team's a bit on a downswing as you start to, make your way to the major leagues.
Yeah, when I signed that contract, I was kind of disappointed that I didn't get 25 or 30,000 like a couple of my friends did. I got $4,000 was my contract, and the contract was set up where I was going to get 2,000 when I signed the contract, and then if I made the Yankees, I would get the other 2. So I wasn't guaranteed even the 4,000. I had to get to the Yankees. So after signing that, I was thinking, well, I'm going to be in the World Series every year if I get up to the Yankees, because they're always in there. So I had no idea the team was going to be on the downswing that it was, when I got there.
Right. What was it like? I mean, you got there, and again, they're on a downswing, but there's still great players there, like Mickey Mantle.
Yeah. That's why it was so unexpected. When I first got up to the Yankees, coming up from Columbus, AA, Georgia, and in 1965, I walk in the clubhouse, and there's Mickey Mantle, Elson Howard, Maris, Bobby Richardson, Pepitone, Clete Boyer, the Whitey Ford, Bowden, all these guys are marching in the World Series, a few years, 5, 6 years ago, and they're all still there. And so it was unimaginable that, we were like a 7th or 8th place team at that time when I joined him. And turned out that everybody's career was really kind of on the downswing. The great names were there where you thought it was still a great team, but everybody's career was really on the downswing. And those first few years were some rough years with the Yankees. And we were kind of a laughing stock, of the league. When we went on the road, a lot of fans were laughing at us that we had bad ball clubs.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, it had to be at least a, even you're on a downswing, it gives a chance for guys like you and Bobby Mercer, who were, coming to the big leagues at that time, at least a chance to play a little more. Johnny Keane was a manager, I know, and for the first couple of years you were there, and then the major came back into the managerial team. What was it like playing for both of those guys, I guess?
What was that again, Keith?
So what was it like playing with Johnny Keane and Ralph Howe, because you were starting your
yeah. Well, Johnny Keane, he was the first guy to put me in the outfield, really. I came up as second baseman along with Mercer. So he had a rookie second baseman and a rookie shortstop, and he didn't want us on the field at the same time playing teams that were maybe fighting for a pennant. So we went to Chicago, and he calls me in the office. We're going to play the White Sox, and he says, "Hey, Roy, I want you to take some fly balls in the outfield that I might use you in the outfield, from here to the end of the season to get you in some ball games." So I said, all right, so I go out and start taking fly balls and take my batting practice. And I look at the lineup, and I'm playing that day in right field. I had no idea he was going to put me in the outfield that very first day after he told me that. So I ended up playing right field in Chicago that day, and ended up playing center field a couple of times towards the end of that season. I remember going to Fenway and playing center field in Fenway. And Keane kind of thought of me as a Curt Flood type of guy that he had in St. Louis. Speed, can run, had a little bit of pop. So I think that was his vision for me, coming up to the Yankees. So, that following year, I was going to be kind of the backup center fielder for the Yankees. Mickey Mantle was playing a lot of first base at that time because of his legs. I can't hear you at all right now. I lost your audio. I know you're trying to get rid of that reverb. Still can't hear you. Not yet. Nope, still can't hear you. Okay.
Perfect.
Okay, you're back.
Yeah. Sorry. So I apologize to everybody. This is my first technical issue. on any show. Murray keeps telling me I got a reverb, and I'm hopefully maybe by rebooting my Roadcaster, I've got rid of it. I hope. I don't hear it in my head now.
Yeah, it's better.
Okay,
It's definitely better.
so yeah, I was talking about. I was starting to mention that it was fortuitous that you got moved to left field, where you became a great player, obviously, and a great defensive player. Because we wouldn't have the Horace Clark years, and nobody would be able to use those, that term if Roy White hadn't been moved to left field. It's funny because people use it kind of, at least not Yankee fans, and some Yankee fans use it as a bit of a derogatory term. But Horace wasn't a bad player. I mean, he was
Not at all.
a Major League Baseball player.
Yeah, you're talking about my first roommate there.
Yeah.
Well, let me tell you how I ended up really in left field. After Johnny Keane, got fired, and then Ralph took over. I was actually got shifted to third base in 1967 because they had traded Clete Boyer, and the Yankees wanted to switch me back to the infield. So I had a brief trial at third base that didn't work out. I was actually terrified to be that close to Frank Howard and Frank Robinson and those guys when they were hitting. So it was really in 1968 that Ralph called me in spring training and said that I was going to be an outfielder and not to worry about, playing in the infield or switching around. So I started off that 68 season as the number 4 outfielder in reserve. And we opened up in New York. And in that first series that we played, and we had to go on the road afterwards, but in that series, Joe Pepitone fractured his arm making a throw from center field. And when we got to Los Angeles to play the Angels, I was in the lineup in right field, actually, starting in right field. I think Bill Robinson played center. So it turned out that I got hot. I got 3 hits that night in California and was in the lineup the next night, got 2 hits the next night, and finished that road trip playing every game in right field. So when we got back to New York, Ralph calls me in the office and he says, I'm going to make a change. You're going to be my left fielder because left field in Yankee Stadium is really like center field in other ballparks. So you have all that ground out there and you've got the speed. So that was going to be my spot. And from that point, to the end of my career in 1979, I was a left fielder basically, every game.
Well, and people think that they got a bad feeling I still get their reverb, so I apologize to everybody.
Yeah.
And again, my guest today is Roy White, Yankee great for 15 years. I want to welcome we'll just say a couple of people saying hi to you in the room here today. We've got a pretty good crowd watching us, and Dave Guyette says hi.
All right.
Murray's here saying hi. My dad, Bob Engel, saying hi. My dad's my most loyal friend, and Dave Guyette. Bruce Capra, a couple other people. We'll say good morning to them. I had to pass along. Ronnie Bloomberg said hi too, by the way. Made sure he
of course. Yeah, I just spoke to him the other day. He said he'd be listening in.
Yeah, he's funny. He's a character. I had a great interview with him. I've had a few of your contemporaries on, and they've been the best received. My audience isn't 20 years old and the 20-year-old Yankee fans. It's the 50 to 70-year-old Yankee fans, But I've had Ronnie on. I had Greg Prager on, who you maybe remember from a spring training here or there. He was a Yankee for a short time.
Yeah.
And Mark Littell, who has a big place in Yankee history, obviously, even though he didn't play for the team.
Right.
Yeah, those have been some of my best received interviews. So I've gotten great reception to you coming on. I mean, just the promo. We had like almost 2,000 views to the promo, so we're going to have a great reception to this. So
that's good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah, well, you're a popular guy, right?
Let me get back to Horace though too, because that was my first roommate. I always feel bad that people, that he got a lot of criticism and kind of is the face of the bad Yankee teams. And Horace was a guy that came out, was ready to play every day. Played the whole schedule basically, was in great shape, hustled every time he was on the field, did his best, hit 260 every year, could steal 20, 30 bases. in one year, him and Gene Michaels led the league in double plays.
Yeah.
So how could he be that bad?
Well,
in one year,
everybody thinks
he broke up three hitters in one season.
Yeah, right. And everybody thinks the Yankees were all, horrible for all those years, but there was some good years mixed in there. 70.
Oh, yeah.
You guys were in contention 70, 71, 72.
Right.
I mean, you run into some great Oriole teams.
They killed us.
Good seasons. He won 93 games one year, I think, and we're finished 20 games behind the Orioles. I mean, that's hard to do.
That's right. They won 107 or something like that, and we got criticized for celebrating that we finished second. If you remember that, we had champagne.
But as you go through, obviously, your career, and you get into the mid 70s, things start to change. 74, you were in contention right to the last weekend.
Right, we were.
Bill Burton now in the manager's seat. After a failed attempt to get Dick Williams to be the manager, obviously. And then things start to get better. Billy Martin comes in 75. And it seems, and you tell me what it felt like for you, I guess. It seemed here as a fan that the Yankees were, if not overtly, at least, behind the scenes, looking maybe to find a way to replace Roy White from time to time as we got to the mid to later 70s. But Roy was always there at the end of the day. Did it feel that?
Yeah, I heard a couple of times that I was going to be traded or something, or they were looking to trade. But it never really happened. I think the only time that they really had a deal was in 1978. And around the trading deadline time in July, they wanted to trade me to the Oakland A's, and it was going to be a deal with them. And Charlie Finley had the A's at that time, and I was a 10-5 guy, so I could refuse any trade. So even though I wasn't in the lineup regularly at that time, I was kind of playing sporadically. I refused. I did not want to go to Oakland. Jerry Kapstein was my agent. First time that I had an agent, and I told Jerry, I said, I'm not going to go to the A's. He says, Finley's calling me. He wants to talk to you. And I said, no, I'm not talking to him. I'm not going out there. It's a bad ballpark. It's cold. I'll stay here. So I didn't get traded. They actually made a deal with Oakland, and we got Gary Thomason and a few players, and we sent over a few guys to them. But from that point on, I ended up playing the rest of the year into the World Series, so it worked out great. And so I never did get traded, and it was great for me to remain as a Yankee for my whole career. That's something that I'm most proud of, is that I'm a lifetime Yankee with 15 years as a New York Yankee.
Was it exciting to finally get into the postseason again in 76? And even though the World Series didn't turn out well, I mean, it was still a great season for the Yankees.
Yeah, no, it was great. As you said, we were getting better. Thurman came up in 70. We got Greg Nettles came to our club. Chris Chambliss came to our club. Eddie Figueroa, Willie Randolph. Then we get Mickey Rivers and Luke Piniella. And so we just had a great chemistry and some real gamers on those ball teams. And by 76, as you said, we got in there against the Reds, and we weren't ready for the Big Red Machine. We had that playoff that went down to the wire with Kansas City, finally winning on the Chris Chambliss home run. Yeah. And the Reds were already waiting for us, so we didn't even have a day off. We had to get on the plane the next day, fly to Cincinnati, had one workout, and we were there. We didn't have a time to come down from that victory and get prepared. So I think that led to us, getting swept. Because I really don't feel that they should have swept us 4-0. That we were much better than that.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
Oh yeah. So we got we got to come back in 77 and 78, and for me, getting a chance to play against the Dodgers from Los Angeles, next to Compton. I had the opportunity to play before, a lot of friends and family, my parents and everything, and getting a World Series home run in 78, every kid's dream, came true. I had a chance to do that. So So everything turned out great for me in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, you had the seasons were funny for you in those two World Series or those two World Series championship seasons. Um, if I remember right, in 77, you played a lot. You had a lot of at bats.
Right.
For years, I mean, you led the Yankees in plate appearances many years, and we're in the league leaders in that
Right.
category. And the 77 playoffs, you didn't play a lot, if I remember right. What happened to you in 77 in the postseason?
Yeah, I was really disappointed, in that 77 World Series that I didn't get a chance to play. Martin told me going into that series that he was going to play me against the right-handed pitchers, and that he would play Pinella against the lefty pitchers. If they made a switch, I would get into the game. So I said, okay. And it never happened. They pitched a right-hander and I didn't start. And so it was kind of a downer in a way. We won that World Series, and I regret it in retrospect. I should have been more of a team guy and thought more about the team and been happy for those guys. But I felt like I was betrayed that I didn't get a chance to get in there like I was promised. And at that time, there was a lot of flack between George and Billy, on who was playing and stuff like that. And I think that politics had something to do with that. So I had a little bit of a sour taste from that. And as I said, looking back, I regret it. Should have been more of a team guy, been happy for the teammates and carried on.
Did it affect your relationship with Billy? What was your relationship like with him?
No, I was disappointed because I thought I was his type of player, that I was a team guy. I hit behind runners. I could bunt. I could do all the Billy ball things,
Yeah.
And I had a meeting with him one time, when we were on the road. And I went into his office and asked him, how come I wasn't playing, or how come I didn't get a start? And then he blamed it on George, basically. Oh, George want me to do this in the lineup. I'll have you in there. Yeah. So I started that night, hit a home run and got 2 hits. And the next day I didn't play. So Ralph Houck has always been one of my favorite managers. If he said he was going to do something, it was done. But, Billy wasn't always truthful, even though he did well with our ball club, that he got us to the World Series.
Yeah, Billy's a great man. He certainly had his faults, unfortunately. But you did get some, just to continue with the World Series years. I mean, in 78, your playing time decreased a bit during the regular season, but you were a huge part of the postseason, and especially that World Series victory, at least in my mind, going back and looking at that. And you and I talked on the phone the other day. 1978 is still my favorite year of all time as a Yankee fan, with everything, all the chaos going on, falling 14 and a half games behind the Red Sox, and you guys coming back. And you ended up being a huge part of that after your disappointment of the 77 postseason.
Yeah, what happened was, when Billy resigned or he was going to get fired, he had that big thing in Kansas City where he said some bad things about Steinbrenner.
Yeah.
And then Bob Lemon took over the team, and when Lim took over, Lim put me back in the lineup, and from July until September, I was kind of on fire. I was playing every day and helped us, get to the playoffs. Had a great playoff against Kansas City.
Yeah.
I remember having a home run in game 3 or 4 that was the winning run in a 2-1 ball game, and then going into the World Series and getting on base every game, scoring a lot of runs, and coming to Game 6 in Los Angeles. Henry Heck, who wrote for the Post, he sees me before the game and he says, "Roy, MVP for this series is between you and Bucky. Whoever probably has the best game is going to be the MVP." Because I think I had the most run scores in that World Series, like 10. I had a home run. I had RBIs. I was hitting over 330.
Yeah.
So in that game, the first time up, I hit a double, and then I ended up scoring. That was my last hit. Bucky got 3 hits and made some good plays and deservedly got the MVP for that World Series. But I was in the running, so it was still a big thrill.
Well, that's good. Again, my guest this morning, for those of you who might be just joining us, is former Yankee great. I say Yankee great. I put former on the banner the other day, and I'm like, I can't leave former. He's a Yankee great. Doesn't matter whether he's playing or not. And again, you've got a lot of fans in the room. I missed Beth Testa Muldoon earlier. She's one of your biggest fans. Number 6 still her favorite. You know, and a lot of us, I have this in common with Murray. I found out in talking with him. You know, that your number's retired, but for Joe Torre, to us, a lot of us, is a bit of a transgression for a kind of a big, I think, a shot at not a shot, but it's dismissing Roy White's contribution to the organization. I think that should be rectified here. Today they retire numbers for guys that have been there spent 5 years there. I mean, Reggie's there 5 years to get his number retired for crying.
When I see Joe Torre, he always calls me the real number 6.
Well, Joe's got a lot of class because you, so that's good that he acknowledges that. So after 78, your career starts to wind down in 79, and that was a tough year, obviously, for the Yankees in general. And, one of the guys that you played with for quite a while tragically died in August. And
right.
The little chances the Yankees probably had that year went with him. It was a tough time that year, I'm assuming, for you and obviously everybody on the team.
Yeah, Thurman and I sat next to each other for those 11 seasons that he was with the Yankees. When he came in as a rookie, he was on my left in the locker room. We were the last 2 lockers on the left hand side when you came into the Yankee Stadium clubhouse, right before you went into the trainer's room. So we became very good friends and sat next to each other on a lot of plane rides, and I got to know him very well. So it was a big blow for me personally to lose the guy that was really a good friend that confided in me in a lot of things. And, our ball club that year, I think it was just a downer. We were struggling more that year, and that was the final blow that really, killed our season. And for me, I wasn't playing as much. Once again, the Yankees were trying to go younger, and they started running out some other guys out the left field, so I was unhappy that season too. I think I only got 290 at bats, my lowest total since I was a rookie, in 1966. So, so it ended badly, a real sad season. And after that, I was a free agent and had the opportunity to play for the California Angels, go back home. But I decided to go to Japan. I got an offer from Japan that was better, and I was kind of intrigued by going there. I knew some of the other players that had gone there and played before, and it was the Tokyo Giants, who are the Yankees of Japan. So, so I ended up signing and playing 3 years in Japan.
You had a couple of really good years there too. What was it like culturally? The differences between playing there and here in the States?
Yeah, it was a big adjustment in the beginning. Getting used to the language barrier, and Japanese style baseball was a little bit different. The power wasn't there in their game, and the power pitching wasn't there either. They probably only had 3 guys that were throwing in the 90s. Most of the guys were in the 86, 87. But by no means it was easy to hit, because most of them had great control and they could spot the ball and change speeds on you. So if you couldn't hit off-speed pitching, you could really have a big problem in Japan. But got to play with Sadahara Oh, the home run king of Japan, who was a great guy. And by mid-season, I picked up some language. I was able to find my way around. And all in all, it was a great cultural experience for myself and family to play in Japan and enjoy their culture. The people love baseball there. And I played on the championship team my second year there. And a funny story that I always tell when I go out and speak, this the greatest day that I had hitting in baseball probably came there in Japan. And this was a night when my family had come in from the States, like mid-June, because the kids had gotten out of school. I take my son to the ballpark to the game. And the first time up, hitting left-handed, I homered. The second time up, I had a double. The third time up, hitting right-handed. We were down 3. We had 2 on. I homered from the right side to tie the game. And in the bottom of the ninth, in a tie game, I came up right-handed again against their best reliever in Japan. He was like the Sparky Lyle of Japan at that time. Sparky was like one of the best relievers. And I homered off of him in the bottom of the ninth to win the game. So I went 4 for 4 with 3 homers. My only time I ever had 3 home runs in a game, like 7 RBIs. And when I got home, I talked to my kids and my wife, and I said, it's going to be headlines tomorrow. When I look at the paper, what a game I had, it's going to really be a big write-up. So the next day I pick up the paper, and the headline was, Sadahara O hit his 758th home run to pass Hank Aaron and become the all-time leader. I didn't even get a mention. So
You tell me he wasn't good there, Roy.
He had one hit. He had one hit to pass Hank Aaron.
It is interesting, cycle to your career that you started your career with one of the greats of American baseball and Mickey Mantle, and you finish it with the greatest player in the history of Japanese baseball, Sadahara O. Amazing.
Yeah, so I actually batted cleanup behind Mickey Mantle and cleanup behind Sadahara O.
That's amazing.
For a guy that only had power that could hit like 20 homers.
Well, you know what? The game has changed so much that, I still miss the game in the 70s and players like yourself. Now it's all or nothing. You hit home runs or strike out and walk. I mean, nothing happens in I think I read an amazing stat not last season, but the last full season, that like 70% of the time nothing happens. Somebody strikes out, somebody walks. The game is just so different today.
Yeah, the ball is not in play often enough. You'll see games where there's 25, 30 strikeouts between the two teams.
Yeah.
And guys with the uppercut swing, with the launch angle and all this stuff in it. It drives me nuts when there's a guy on third and there's only 1 out, and the guy has 2 strikes on him, and he's still on the knob of the bat, and he ends up popping up or striking out. And the next guy hits a fly ball, which would have brought in a run, but it's too late now because that was the second out. And I think it'll come back. I think some of the skill things of baseball will come back. The stolen base, the hit and run. That it'll run its cycle, but right now, I don't find the game as exciting, with the way it's played right now.
No, it's some days it's impossible to watch guys, hitting into the shift right and left. Not even trying to hit the ball where there is nobody. Somebody like you would have cleaned up today. You'd have hit 400 probably because you know how to move the ball around.
Yeah, we had several guys on our team that could go the other way. Thurman was very good at it. Lou was very good at it.
Tell me about let's circle back to the Yankees. The early 70s, late 60s, early 70s, even through the the championship years. Who were some of your favorite guys to play with?
Well, Thurman for sure. Being right next to me, and then Chris Chambliss came in and he sat to my right. So I was in between Thurman and Chris Chambliss, 2 real great teammates and human beings. I was kind of good friends with everybody on the team. Willie Randolph came in and was good friends with Willie. Ron Guidry, Catfish Hunter, great guys. Lou Piniella and I were pretty tight. We had a lot of this common interests and everything. So it was really a lot of fun, playing baseball on those teams. And I don't know, I think there was more camaraderie then and a lot of more fun. Coming up to coach for the Yankees in 2004, with Joe Torre and the Yankees. A lot of great guys and good players, but the atmosphere wasn't the same. I don't think they had as much fun. It was more business-like, the way baseball is now. So there was a lot of great memories with those guys. As I said, never a dull moment. A lot of guys, a lot of pranksters. Mickey Rivers was really a character. Catfish and Pinella. Those guys getting on each other on bus rides and plane rides was hilarious. So
Nettles was one of my favorites too.
Nettles, yes, he was. There he was.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't know we were that great. And so looking back on it, when I look back at it, I said, geez, we really had some great teams. What we were able to accomplish in those 3 seasons, getting to the World Series 3 straight years is really tough. And we were able to do that. So, we didn't always have the greatest team as far as all-stars. Boston probably had more bigger names than we did at one time, but we didn't need the home run to win ball games. We had guys that to get the base hit when you needed, can move a guy. Even in the Boston Massacre in 1978, when we went in and swept Boston to go into first place, in 4 games in Fenway, we didn't hit a home run. There was a home run in that series. We just doubled and singled and line drives all over the place to win that big series there. So that's the way it was then. And I tell a lot of people that I think the last great era of baseball was in the 70s, 60s and 70s. The names that played then and the characters. And afterwards, it became more business-like and everything. Not to take away anything from the players now. We have some great players. But I think that era of baseball, Mays and Aaron, Mickey, Catfish Hunter, Five Blue, a lot of characters, a lot of personality.
Murray has asked me to have you elaborate a little bit on Mickey Rivers, one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, Mickey. When we got Mickey, this was really great for me in 1976, Keith, because as you know, I had to hit cleanup for the Yankees for at least 6 or 7 years. As Ralph told me, we had nobody else that he could trust in the number 4 spot. So I was really miscast in that spot. And as a player and playing in Yankee Stadium, I had to look for pitches that I could hit out possibly, late in the game if we were in a close ball game. And we had the short porch in right field in Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium with the low fence. So I couldn't do a lot of the things that I normally could do as a ball player. So when we got Mickey Rivers, I finally got to hit number 2 and had Mickey in front of me. So now I had a guy that I could hit behind, that could steal bases, that could hit and run with. And Mickey and I had our personal signs that he would run, and I know he was going, and I could try to go the other way. Or I could bunt to the third baseman, and Mickey could go from first to third because the third baseman had to come in for the bunt. So there was a lot of things that I got to do. So that was probably one of the most fun years that I had playing baseball in 1976 with Mickey Rivers. How many times do you have your leadoff guy and your number 2 guy score over 100 runs in a season?
It's amazing.
Season in 1976, I think I had 104 runs scored, and Mickey Rivers had 102 runs scored.
Yeah.
You see where you could find that now. It doesn't happen.
It's funny that there's a funny story I always hear about Mickey Rivers that I'll ask you about. I did ask Marty Appel about this actually a few months ago, and I heard a story about Reggie, and it was in the locker room one day, elaborating on the awesomeness of Reggie, I guess, and he kind of bragged about his IQ being, I don't know, whatever, 160, and so the reporters went back and asked Mickey about the fact that Reggie claims he's got an IQ of 160, and Mickey said, out of what, 1,000? And Marty said that story is true. I don't know if you've heard it or can confirm it at all.
Yeah, that actually happened on a bus ride. Going either leaving the ballpark or heading towards the ballpark or going to the airport. and they were both getting on each other, Reggie and Mickey, and Reggie didn't have a chance because Mickey had too many comebacks. I think he told Reggie that Reggie didn't even know how to spell IQ. Besides the other comment about out of 1,000.
Well, it's funny that, one person, and I'll ask you about it because I guess it's required. You didn't mention Reggie, and when we talked about the players you enjoyed playing with, what was your relationship like with Reggie?
No, I got along fine with Reggie. Reggie helped us win. He could come up with a home run in the big game. If the game was on TV, we had to say, if the game was televised, that Reggie was going to hit one out, and which he did more often than not, because when the pressure was really on, that Reggie really got focused. So we just let him do his thing. We let him talk and everything, but he was still a good teammate, and he tried hard when he went out there, and he helped us win a lot of ball games. So, as I said, I got along with everybody. So.
I can imagine Roy was good. That was the impression that I always had, even when you mentioned Lou Piniella, because back at that time, I would think if there was a guy that there might be some tension with, it would be the guy. I mean, you and him were fighting for playing time a lot of the time in your career, in his career, I would think. So
no, it really wasn't. A lot of people think that, but that really wasn't the case. Reggie played more right. I mean, Lou played more right field than he ever played left field. If you look at the amount of games played. What happened was in 1974, when Bill Verdon came in to manage in spring training, he said, the way I want to set up this lineup is I want you to play first base against left-handed pitching. And he was going to play Chris Chambliss against right-handed pitching. And then Lou was going to play left field, when I was playing first base. So the season started out that way. Where I was playing some first base. I actually broke my thumb in spring training in 74 and didn't start the first maybe 3 weeks of the season before I healed up enough where I could play. So I started off playing some first base, and then Lou got vertigo in May, early May. It was out of the lineup for 2 weeks, and I returned to left field and played the rest of the season in left field. So Lou didn't play, left field except early in that year. And then sporadically over the next few years, if I was injured, then Lou would be in left field. But when Reggie was there, Lou was playing right and Reggie was DHing. So a lot of people seem to think that I was battling him for playing time in left field, but I have 1,600 games in left field. I think Lou, in his Yankee career, had like 160 games in left field or something.
Yeah, that makes sense now that you say it. I think that my opinion probably goes back to like when he was acquired. He was pretty much a left fielder with the Royals.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah. So, 74 was one of the great seasons, too. You guys went into that last weekend, as I said, and
exactly
battling with the Orioles. And
right.
Obviously, there's a fight, and Bobby Mercer breaks his thumb. Talking about thumbs, and it was kind of a bittersweet end of the season.
Right, we had the lead going like into the last 3 weeks of the season, and we played the Orioles in a big series in Shea Stadium. I think it was just a 3-game series, and I think we had a 2-game lead, and they swept us to go up 1 game. And for the final 15 games, it was a 1-game lead going all the way down to the wire. And we went to Milwaukee for that last series with Milwaukee. And Dempsey and Mercer. Well, it was Dempsey and Bill Sudeikis got into a scuffle in the lobby. I was already up in my room going to sleep, but I heard about it later. And I guess Mercer tried to break it up or got in there to break it up and ended up breaking his thumb or something like that. So we didn't have Bobby in the lineup going into Milwaukee. And I think we lost the second game in there, and that eliminated us. So we were out of it. But in
Yeah, it
today's
seems like Bill
baseball,
Burton had done a good job with the team that year, and
yeah,
obviously
we
next year
did.
Billy comes available, and George had a
Right,
love hate
right.
affair with Billy. Did that craziness really affect you guys a whole lot? Everything going on with Billy and George and Reggie when Reggie came, did it affect you on a daily basis, or?
No, the guys we had once we were on the ball field, it was all business baseball. So none of that really affected us.
Who was your favorite manager? Is it Ralph
Ralph
Houk?
Houk was my guy. He gave me my first opportunity to be a regular. He stuck with me through when I was struggling a bit. And as I said, if he said I'm gonna give you a rest, you're struggling a little bit, you need a day off. Just watch the game and see how easy it is, and then you'll be back in there. You were back in there the next day. He was a man of his word. So so Ralph was always my favorite, and he was a guy that you didn't want to cross. He wasn't known as the major for nothing. He was a pretty tough guy. You didn't want to get called in his office because he could take you on. He was that type of guy if he really got mad. So you wanted to stay on his good side. But I really respected him, and he was my favorite.
You think? I mean, obviously George chased Ralph out of town. Do you think if Ralph had stuck around, that things would have progressed? It's hard to go back and say if you did this, if you did that. Would the Yankees still have come back to prominence if Ralph had stuck around?
Yeah, I think we would have. I think there was no doubt about that. You got to have the players to win. And we were really struggling with a lot of different guys becoming Yankees over those years. We got a lot of guys at the end of their careers, when they came in. I remember getting Johnny Callison, who was a great player for the Phillies. When we got him, he was on his downside already.
Couldn't see anymore from what I remember reading.
Right.
Bad eye,
Right.
How about, is there anybody, is there a manager out there that you said, boy, I wish I could have played for that guy? Is there somebody that comes to mind? You almost played for Dick Williams. I don't know what that would have been like.
Yeah, Joe Torre.
Oh, good answer.
Yeah. Having
like
coached
major,
and seeing how he handled the club, he would have been the guy I would like to play for.
Yeah, it seems like he was a
right.
bit like
right,
Ralph.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. A lot of the same attributes and personality.
Yeah. How about players? Any players out there that you like, boy, I wish I had played with that guy? And maybe I don't know, maybe the guys that you grew up with in Compton. I don't know.
I'm happy with the guys that I played with, really.
Well, you played with a great bunch. I'm telling you, growing up a Yankees fan wasn't always easy because when I was very young, you guys were struggling a bit, but it was still fun to root for you guys. I was in my backyard, trying to emulate every single. My brother and I had before the we played against this shed we had in the back, and he was a Mets fan, I was a Yankees fan. I would just like all you guys, I would try to emulate your swings, and I'd switch hit for Roy White. And it was a lot of fun growing up rooting for you guys, and I do think that it's time that Roy White and maybe a few other guys got their due that haven't, and we stopped. Not that these aren't great players. Paul O'Neill's a great player. They're certainly great players, but there's some guys that we're forgetting, like Roy White and Greg Nettles, two guys that come to my mind, and Bobby.
Yeah, Greg should have a plaque. He should have Monument Park. There's no doubt that he's the best third baseman, in Yankee history.
Oh, good. Murray says that. Here's a point I did not know. The lore says that Bucky's home run in '78 was hit with Mickey Rivers' bat after he broke his own, and it was actually your bat.
That is true.
Why does history keep repeating?
What happened was in batting practice before that game against the Red Sox there in Fenway, Bucky had been struggling, and complaining. I think he was in like a 5 for 30 slump or something like that. And Bucky used a bat. It was an R161 model, and it was like 35 inches long and 33 ounces, a lot on that bat.
Yeah.
And I looked at his bat, and I had ordered that model mid-season, but only 34 and a half inches long and 32 ounces. And I didn't like those bats. I tried them out, didn't like them. I gave them to Mickey Rivers because he liked that model. So Mickey had been using that bat that I gave to him. So I told Bucky, I said, hey, why don't you try Mickey's bat over here, the R161. I said, it's the same as yours, but it's an inch shorter and a couple ounces lighter. So he used it in batting practice. He says, yeah, it feels pretty good. I'll use it. So anyway, when he came up to hit in that inning, in the top of the seventh, I believe, and he fouled the ball off his foot, and he went back, and it was in the on-deck circle. Gene Monahan was spraying the freeze on his ankle, and Mickey Rivers looked at his bat, and he was using the R161 that had a chip in the knob. And he says, hey, Bucky, why are you using this one? He says, well, I didn't want to use your gamer. Because we have the bats that we use for the game and the ones we use for batting practice. He says, no, come on, we're on the same team. And he switched and gave him the other R61, which was, the game bat. So he hit the home run, and that was my bat. It had Roy White on it. Now, over the years in the banquets, they said that story so much that it was Mickey Rivers' bat that I was starting to believe it myself. So I'm doing a signing in Cooperstown, several years later, and a fan came by, and we're talking there, and he's on his way to the Hall of Fame. I said, hey, do me a favor. When you go to the Hall, see if you can find where they have the bat, because that bat's in the Hall of Fame, and tell me what name is on that bat that the home run that Bucky did have. He says, okay. So a few hours later, he comes back, and he goes, the bat's not there. It's on tour. That Cooperstown puts stuff on tour that goes around. But the curator says when it comes back that he would let me know. So he says, give me your email and I'll email you. So a couple of months later, I get an email. And it says, your name was on the bat.
You want to get a plaque just for that.
So I knew my story was true.
That's all. I can't believe that I've heard that story corrected in all these years. It'll still get retold as it's Mickey's bat.
Right.
Well,
it is, to a certain degree. I gave it to him.
Quickly about the Roy White Foundation, which you guys are doing some great work for some of the helping underprivileged kids get higher education. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that and how people maybe can help out?
Yeah, the main purpose, our goal is to help kids go to college and get financial assistance. Even though we've given money to various other, charitable organizations, food outreach in Westchester, we've given money to. We've helped some softball teams for the disabled with equipment and things like that. But as I said, the main purpose is to help kids have some financial assistance to go to college. And over the last 8-9 years, we've probably helped over 200 kids with some financial assistance to go to college. So at this time, we had a big event that was our main fundraiser that we were going to have this year. And because of COVID, was canceled, like a lot of other things for a lot of other people. So we weren't able to raise any funds. So if anybody would like to send in a donation, it's the Roy White Foundation. Our address is 210 Summit Avenue, Montville, New Jersey, 07645.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? If you want to text me that once we get done, I'll put that on the site and I'll add it.
Sure.
I start sharing this this interview with the various Yankee groups and nostalgic baseball groups where we get our views from. I'll add that address and stuff to that. So I want to thank you for joining me today and spending this hour with me. As is the case with guys like you, I could go on for another hour for sure. And I do appreciate your time this morning. And I hope, you and your family stay safe until we get through this.
Definitely. Appreciate it.
If you want, we'll chat real quick after I wrap up the show. If you got to run, that's fine. But if you want to hang around the green room for a second, I'll chat with you.
Okay. All right. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks again, Roy. You have a great weekend. So my guest, Roy White. Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. I'm not sure where that reverb was coming from. I don't hear it now, so I hope it wasn't too bad. I want to thank all of you. I mean, I tried to talk about some of you that were here. I'll do it real quick. Dave Guyette, obviously always here. Beth, thanks for watching. Manuel, Murray obviously was here. My dad, Bruce Capra, Lenny Kosberg said hi, Roy. I forgot to tell you that. Sorry, Lenny. Bobby Motel, Jim Orpello, Mark Robertshaw. Didn't get your question there, Mark. Sorry, but maybe I'll get some comment to add after. So I appreciate all you guys joining me today. Remember, I'll be on Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. We'll talk about college football Saturday. We'll talk about that day's NFL games. Whatever other news comes up. Next week, I got Todd Stottlemyre right here, 8 a.m. Eastern time on TGI Sports Talk. I appreciate all of you watching, all of you that will watch this, and all the groups that allow me to share it. Great interview with Roy White today. I thank Roy, and we'll talk to you all soon. Thanks. Bye-bye, guys.